2, 3, 4, let's go. Good day to all of you. This is Tommy at the Tommy Kendi Unfiltered podcast. Welcome, guys. Good to have you here. And what a day it is. I reckon. I'm on this. What the hell is that? I don't even know. But on this podcast, I'm excited to share it with you as I am with every other episode. What we're talking about today is a good one. So I'm just going to warn you, it's a good one. And the reason that it's a good one is because we are delving into this question, which is, does the path always reveal itself? Does the path forward always present itself or reveal itself? And I've been pondering this question quite a bit, actually, because, you know, right now in my own life, there's so many fucking things going on. There's just so many avenues that I can sort of dive into, and as I sit and look out at my life and see where it's heading and question things, and, you know, what do I make a decision on, and do I go this way, do I go that way, but oh my God, what if I go this way, what happens, and so and so. And I'm sure you can relate. Most of the people that listen to the Tommy Kendi Unfiltered podcast usually people that are on the journey, and I know you can relate. As you're listening, you're like, yep, am I on a journey? And you're probably taking a big sigh, and you right now probably got a really big smile on your face, and there's a part of you that's sort of excited to hear what Tommy has to say, and I'm actually excited to share with you what I'm about to say. And usually I don't really know what magic will come through me, but I'm tuned in, I'm here, and I'm ready to share. And the reason that this podcast came about, or this episode came about, is, as I said before, I've been pondering all these things that are in my life. There's probably 5 or 6 different avenues I can go down. Do I do them all together, or do I just need to focus on one, or do I fuck them all off and just keep doing what I'm doing? So there's this level of discomfort and resistance that sits within me right now, and isn't the mind fucking amazing? Because it just ponders. You could literally waste your whole life fucking sitting back and pondering shit. And I've had all these really cool ideas, but do I do it? Do I not do it? Am I motivated enough? Oh, so many things, right? So this morning, just like every other morning, well, most mornings, probably 90% of the mornings, or at some point in the day, I go into the ocean. And the ocean, it never stops to amaze me in terms of whatever I'm going through in life. It always gives me some sort of message, whether it's before I get in the ocean, especially in winter or the colder months in Melbourne. If you live in Melbourne, you know the colder months are cold, like you're cold, like the water gets to, right. I mean, look, at the end of the day, right now, the ocean's probably 11 or 12 degrees, which is not really that cold, because I also do cold or ice baths, which are probably between 3 and 5 degrees. So I don't know. The ocean for me now is just like, this is nice. But anyway, I went into the ocean this morning for a dip, and as I was walking in and just putting one foot in front of the other. And every time it's like, fuck, this is cold, man. This is cold, right? So anyway, and I saw all this seaweed at the bottom of the sand. And it was probably about 5 or 10 meters away from me as I was walking out. And in my head, I'm like, fuck, I don't really want to go through this seaweed. Like, I just want to, I want a clear path forward. Can you see where I'm getting at? So what I said, okay, cool. So what do I do here? And it didn't even dawn on me that I've been pondering this question about the path forward. Anyway, so I just thought to myself, you know what? I'll just walk a little bit closer towards where this seaweed was on the seabed. And I walked a little bit closer, and lo and behold, as I walked closer to it, I saw this perfect gap where there was no seaweed and I could just walk through. There was no seaweed at the bottom of the ocean or on the sand bed, and I could just simply walk through. I had to move over to the left a little, so I moved back over to the left, and I moved past this perfect gap. And it's so simple, isn't it? But what dawned on me at that point, and I started smiling as I was in the, in the cold water, and I was sitting there and I was looking at the sun is out, and I'm just like, fuck me, how is that for an epic answer? It was so perfect. And so what dawned on me at that moment is that I wouldn't have seen the space in the seaweed or on the floor bed if I didn't walk closer to it. Making sense? So what I did is I kept moving towards, obviously, I mean, I could have turned around and gone in and not jumped in the ocean, just had my feet in there. But that's a bit fucking boring, don't you reckon? So what did I do? I kept walking, and as I walked closer, suddenly the path just opened up. But the funny thing is that was always open. I just couldn't see it when I wasn't closer to it. And the only time that I saw the path open is when I walked closer towards the seaweed on the seabed, and I saw a little gap and I said, interesting, I'm going to walk through that. And I walked through it and got there and walked past it, and I had this incredible, overwhelming feeling of, wow, what a lesson that is. So what is the lesson? The lesson is, and I'm going to keep going with this, but the lesson is you have to go closer towards the scary bits or the fear. You have to move closer to it, and the closer you get to it, the more the path will reveal itself. So in answer to our question, does the path forward always present itself? The answer is yes, it always presents itself. But then the next piece of the puzzle, because it's all a puzzle, isn't it? Until you get to the end and you put the last piece of, thing into the puzzle, then, or the last piece, as you put the last piece into the puzzle, until that point, you have to keep moving forward, and constantly paths will always reveal itself. But then the next piece of the puzzle for me was, as I walked past it, I had this overwhelming feeling of wow, something just dawned on me, like, cool, like, let's keep moving, right? But then, I mean, look, let's drop the whole seabed thing, because that's the lesson I got in the seabed. But in terms of the paths that present itself for us, there's so many. It's unlimited. The paths forward are limitless, and they always reveal themselves. But our choice is, do we want to move towards them or not move towards them? So, for example, as I put my feet in the water, I could have gone, nah, there's too much seaweed, I'll go later or go tomorrow or whatever, and nothing would have happened. I would have just put my feet in the water, walked back to my car, gone about my day and done my thing, and I wouldn't have got the magic. I wouldn't have got the lesson. The only reason I did get the lesson is because I decided to keep moving towards the seaweed, which in essence is the fear or is the unknown. And as I moved towards the path opened up. But as all these limitless opportunities open up for us, and there's so many, there is always so many, isn't it funny that there's something inside us that beckons us to move forward, to move towards, to move down the path? There's something inside us that just intuitively, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's go towards it. So as I went deeper into it, I thought to myself, okay, cool. So there is a deeper path. There is a path, particular path, I want to take it. But then what if there's a path that reveals itself that inside you're like, do you know what? I'm not doing that. And it's so natural, this intuitive feeling inside all of us that allows us to move towards something, and it feels good but scary. But there's also other paths which is like, nah, do you know what? I'm not doing that. And even though if there's other people in your life, and this is where it gets super confusing, is when other people are in your life telling you, oh, you should do it like this, or you should do it like that, and this is how it's done, and this is the formula, and if you do it any other way, you're a fucking piece of shit. Well, look, I'm not saying that's a bit harsh. No one's ever said to me you're a piece of shit. But this is the way that things have to be done, right? But it doesn't feel right for you. But then, if it doesn't feel right for you, this is where it gets a little bit confusing, because if it doesn't feel right for you, does it not feel right for you because of your patterns that you've been doing for your whole entire life, and what's been holding you back? It doesn't feel right because you have to step out of your comfort zone, or does it not feel right because you just know that it's total fucking wrong town, and that's just not the area where you're meant to be, or that's not the path that you're meant to take, right? So you have to be super vigilant, super curious. It's like, what's going on? Journaling is a great way to do it. I know most of you have probably dabbled in journaling, or you've tried it. Pen to paper and just start fucking writing. It's so cool. Even if it's for 5-10 minutes, you always get some sort of magic out of it. So then the other, if you flip the coin, the other side of the coin is, if it does feel right, and it almost feels like you're being pushed towards it, even if in that moment it's not making sense. And if it's not making sense, it's fine. When things don't make sense, it's totally fine. Don't freak out. Don't have a fucking hissy fit. Don't go calling 100 people going, hey, what should I do? By the way, that's the worst thing you can possibly do. I always think to myself, in certain areas of my life, if I really need some assistance, I will have one person that I will go to in all the different areas in my life, whether it's career or whether it's my health, or, I probably have 4 or 5 different people that I always go to. And even though if I don't fully trust what they say, or even though if I don't fully agree with what they say, there's always something that I get that gives me some goodness, right? There's always something that I get that gives me some sort of, push forward. And whether I do it the way I was advised to, or the total opposite, I always surprise myself. As long as I'm moving forward, the path forward is revealing itself, and I'm constantly just stepping into the path moving forward, right? So this is, and let me just talk about that point a little bit more, because I know that I used to be that type of person where every time I had a decision to make, I would call my mum, I'd call my best mate, I'd speak to, if I had a girlfriend at the time, I'd speak to her, I'd call my other mate, I'd call this mate, and I'd almost call people until someone told me what it is. Someone told me something that I agree with. I'm like, yeah, that's the one. All right, cool. Let's do that. Right. So limit yourself to one person if you're looking for advice, or you're looking for even if that person gives you the wrong advice, it's better to get the wrong advice than it is to get 2, 3, 4, 5, even 10 people telling you all different things and confusing the fuck out of you. Right. So get that. It's better to get the wrong advice than it is to get 10 different types of advice. I mean, have a look at Google. A lot of I own a colonic center, right? So we bought the colonic center. Man, you Google colonics or colonic hydrotherapy, and if you have a look at the first 10 things on Google, probably half of them will tell you how incredible it is, and then the other half will tell you how it kills you. Out of the 10 years I've been doing colonics, I've never ever seen anything go south with a colonic. I've only seen good stuff happening. The only time I've ever seen anything go south with colonics when people aren't honest about what they're experiencing, or if they're not honest about what's going on in the gut, or if they've had surgeries, or if they're on certain medications. If you're not honest, shit's going to go wrong. So, but I'm just using the colonic as an example. And so the path forward, that's the cool thing, isn't it? It always reveals itself, but as it reveals itself, you have to move into it. And as you're listening to this episode now, you're probably sitting there going, yeah, you know what? That I'm doing, I've got these little little trees of opportunity that are opening up in front of me, but I'm not sure what to do. I'm not sure what decisions to make, or I'm not sure. But really, the key to this podcast is, or the key to this episode is, you have to move towards the seaweed on the bottom of the bed, or of the bottom of the seabed. And as you move there, it was such a cool moment when I saw that little path in between the seaweed. It blew my mind, something so simple, and it felt so fucking cool. I'm like, oh my God, yes, I've got to move closer to the fear. I've got to move closer to the uncertainty, and then it just reveals itself every fucking time. And it made me so happy that when when I'm searching for something, or I'm looking for clues or answers, the universe, well, not the universe, fuck up, it's not the universe, it's like the path forward, it presents itself for me. And you know what, the ocean for me, it always gives me that gift. It doesn't matter if I go in there once a week or 5 times a week or 10 times a week, whatever. Every time something happens in the ocean that just draws out of me a really cool aha moment every time. The other day I was in there, and it was just simple. I was just feeling stuck in a certain area, and all I did was go into the ocean. I put my feet in, I jumped in like normal. This time there was no seaweed, and I just looked at the water, and it was just constantly moving, constantly flowing, constantly happening. There's things moving, there's birds in it, jumping out, jumping up and down. There's certain little fishes fishing around, whatever. And things are always moving, they're flowing. Nothing's ever stuck. Even when you're stuck, you're still moving. There's things still flowing, there's moving. And you're not going to be stuck forever. Stuff always opens up, whether it takes a day, a week, a month, whatever it takes. Things are always going to open up for you. So in those moments when we do feel stuck and we don't know which direction to go, just take some leaps of faith, take some steps forward, and we're done. With the path is revealing itself. And then if you want to go deeper down the rabbit hole, then really question yourself in those moments when you check in. What am I feeling here? Am I doing this because I'm being forced to by external stimuli or by external influence? Or am I doing this because this is something deep in my gut that wants to express itself out in my life? And they're really good questions to ask yourself. They're actually incredible. And then just keep moving. And then every day is a new opportunity, new day. Every day it's like getting into it and moving forward. And we're always going to get stuck, and we're always going to get thrown a curveball, and shit always goes south. And then in those moments, you just drop your shoulders down and go, cool, that was a fucking good one, and not take yourself so serious. There's so many opportunities we have, guys, to move forward. And ultimately, at the end of the day, in the way that I look at the world that every single human being is here to make a difference, a positive impact on this planet. I know 100% I'm here to do something really fucking special in this world, and I'm doing it. Am I doing it to the best of my abilities? Probably not. But am I working towards doing it the best of my abilities in the best possible way I know how? Fucking oath I am. Does everything make sense in my life? Fuck no. Will it make sense at some point? Probably not. But all I know is I'm on the path, and as the path reveals itself, I check in, gut, what's going on, intuition, all right, let's go. Am I doing this or not? If I'm not, if it doesn't feel right at that moment, I check in again, why? And then if it feels right, I keep moving, journal, talk to yourself, be curious. And, another little golden nugget, which I'm going to give you on this episode, is the way that you perceive certain situations. The way that you perceive certain situations are going to be the catalyst of the experience you have. And I'll give you a little example and I'll leave you to go on your fucking beautiful path as it presents itself. This last weekend I had I've got a little rock band, and we had a rehearsal. But anyway, as I got to rehearsal, I got there and the street that the rehearsal studio is on was totally blocked. In terms of block, there was a bunch of trucks changing a fucking light fitting or something. And I had to my bass amp is fucking heavy, man. Like, even a strong dude would try and pick that thing up and go, oh, man. So there was probably about a 500-meter walk to the studio, and we couldn't get in there. Well, we couldn't, like, drive in there. So usually what I do is I drive there, open up the back of my Jeep, take the amp in, chuck it on a trolley, and it's done. So I was about half a K away from the rehearsal studio space, right? And I go to turn left, and there's a guy, this big, guy with the stop sign with the orange shirt on, going, sorry, mate, yeah, you fucking this and that or whatever, and, we got lights, you can't turn in here. And I open up my window, and I said, oh, man, I'll go, okay, do you, I've got a really heavy amp. Like, I get you guys are doing that, but do you mind if I just, drive in quickly and then come back out? It's like, sorry, mate. And I go, all right, well, do you mind if I just park here? And I, grab my amp and just put it down. I go park my car. And he's like, yeah, no worries. So I put the car there. Anyway, I go out the back. I try to take out my amp, and he looks at me and he's like, mate, that looks fucking heavy. I'm like, yeah, it is. And I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, brother, I go, man, unless you're going to help me, or I don't know what to do here. Like, I don't know, is there anything you can do? Like, I appreciate what you guys are doing, and you're super tired and, whatever, you've probably been here all day. He's like, mate, come on. And he opens up, lets me go drive all the way down. And then I, took out my bass as normal. And then he came up to my car and he said, mate, there's a sneaky park here. Just park there. You'll be fine. Just park really close to the curb so the trucks can get by. And I was like, oh my God, how cool. But I wasn't being sneaky or doing it. I was just naturally being a fucking nice guy to the dude, Anyway, about half an hour later, the guitarist rocks up. He comes or the guitarist singer, he rocks up. And he comes in all fucking pissed off. He's like, fucking hell, the roads are fucking closed. And, I was so pissed off at the guy with the sign because he didn't let me in, and he made me park my car bloody 2 Ks away, and he was carrying on like a pork chop. By the way, if he's listening to this podcast, I fucking love you, but change your fucking attitude, motherfucker. I'm kidding. But anyway, so he had a whole different experience, because he initially went in there and he was already pissed off. He was pissed off at the guy, probably frowned at him. And the guy was like, I'm not helping this cunt out. No way. Fucking chances. He can park up the road and carry his own shit. I don't care how heavy that thing is. Anyway, we had 2 very different experiences based on how we perceive the world. I perceive the world in a way that everyone's there to help, everyone's there to support, and that's my natural way of looking at the world. He, probably in that moment anyway, looked at the world with the assumption or the perception that people are in his way, everyone's out to fuck with him, and look at the experience he had. So we need to change our perception. And if you want some cool lessons, daily lessons, you don't need a coach. Well, you do, because I'm sort of putting myself out of a business. If you do want to coach with me, by all means, give me a buzz. But if you don't want to do that, then the next best thing is get your ass in the water, in the ocean on a daily basis. If you don't live near the ocean, then do something else. Get into nature and just ask for signs. Not signs. Ask for, to be shown something that is in relation to what it is that you're doing with your life right now. Guys, thank you so much for listening. I know you're going to love this one. Lots of love. Speak later. Rock on.